James Comey gives a dramatic account, often in vivid detail, of 5 one-on-one conversations with Donald Trump. The first with President-elect Trump in New York, January 6th, a briefing on the investigation of Russia's election meddling and salacious claims about to become public that Mr. Trump was involved with prostitutes 4 years earlier in Moscow, something Trump has vehemently denied. Comey says he thought about whether to give an assurance that Mr. Trump was not under investigation. That was true, Comey says. We did not have an open counterintelligence case on him. I offered that assurance. Comey says he decided right then to document his conversations with Mr. Trump and began typing the notes on a laptop as he rode away from Trump Tower in an FBI car. Next meeting, dinner at the White House, January 27th. Comey says the president told him, "I need loyalty. I expect loyalty." Comey says, "I didn't move, speak, or change my facial expression in any way during the awkward silence that followed, but later answered, 'You will always get honesty from me.'" He also told the president that the FBI was not investigating Mr. Trump personally. In his interview with Lester Holt, the president said Comey requested the dinner.
A dinner was arranged. I think he asked for the dinner. And he wanted to stay on as the FBI head.
But Comey says Mr. Trump called him with the invitation. And he says he got the feeling it was an effort to have me ask for my job and create some kind of patronage relationship. Next, February 14th, after an Oval Office intelligence briefing, the day after National Security Advisor Michael Flynn was forced to resign. He quotes the president as saying, "I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He's a good guy." Comey says, "I did not say I would let this go," adding, "I had understood the president to be requesting that we drop any investigation of Flynn into whether Flynn made false statements about his conversations with Russia's ambassador to the U.S. But Comey says, "I did not understand the president to be talking about the broader investigation into Russia or possible links to his campaign." Comey says he remembers leaving the Oval Office through the door by the grandfather clock and that he told only a few people about it because he didn't want to let the FBI investigators know about a request that the FBI had no intention of granting. After that, he says, he asked Attorney General Jeff Sessions to prevent any further direct communications with the president, but he says Sessions did not reply. March 30th, Comey says the president called him at the FBI and asked what we could do to lift the cloud of the Russia allegations, adding, quote, that he had nothing to do with Russia, had not been involved with hookers in Russia, and had always assumed he was being recorded when in Russia. Comey replied that he had told congressional leaders that the FBI was not investigating Mr. Trump, who responded, "We need to get that fact out," and added if there were some satellite associates of his who did something wrong, it would be good to find that out. 2 weeks later, Comey says, the president called again and asked what I had done about his request that I get out, that he is not personally under investigation. Comey says the president added, "I have been very loyal to you, very loyal. We had that thing, you know." Comey says he didn't ask what the president meant by that thing. Comey never says in the prepared statement that he thought the president's remarks amounted to obstruction of justice, and a former federal prosecutor says there's no sign of that.
And they create an inference of an attempt to influence a pending investigation. That alone is not enough to make an obstruction case, but that's a big piece of it.
Comey says he met with President Trump 3 times and talked with him on the phone 6 times. By contrast, he met with President Obama twice and never felt the need to take notes. Tonight, the president's outside lawyer says Mr. Trump is pleased that Comey publicly confirmed that the president was not under investigation, adding, "The president feels completely and totally vindicated."
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.